started wearing makeup when uni first started, so that means I was about 18, 19, and I always liked it, but because I never really knew how to do it, I didn't ever tap into it that early. And also as well, I held some pretty like dated and superficial views about makeup and people who wore it, because I always felt like people who wore makeup, especially people who wore it often, had some kind of, you know, low self-esteem and all sorts of other things that are obviously not true. But then I think also as well, because I was going to uni, I was, you know, I had a bit more freedom, so I thought this looks fun, let me try it. And yeah, here we are, I guess. We're humans, like at the end of the day, like how we look is obviously going to be important to us in one form or another, whether that's if we think that we're presentable, if we think that we are beautiful or conventionally attractive. We shouldn't feel bad for thinking about that kind of stuff. And I feel like as women, especially as, you know, black women, we are made to feel bad about thinking that, when sometimes how we look is important to how far we get in life and essentially survival, to put it like that. So yeah, I do think that the way I look is pretty important. Respectability politics had been something that I'd grown up hearing and seeing a lot of, which again shaped how I view myself and how I view others. So for example, like being a very loud and very outgoing black girl wasn't, for me, I just thought I'm confident, I speak my mind, I'm happy in who I am, so of course I'm gonna act like that. But then to other people, it was always made very clear that even when I say loud, it's not even like just shouting all the time. Like everybody knows if I'm talking louder than I'm normally talking, like right now, I'm automatically a loud black girl. So I think when we say that, it's very clear what I'm talking about. And again, like that was perceived negatively, like by teachers, by people outside, like, you know, after school when everyone's enjoying themselves, it was always the black girls that were told that, you know, keep it down, what are people gonna think, like why should that matter, I'm not hurting anyone, I'm enjoying that, I shouldn't have to think about how the way I choose to express joy is going to scare another person, because that's their problem, not mine. So yeah, just thinking that that was okay, and it doesn't mean that I'm less intelligent or less deserving of respect because of how I chose to carry myself. And again, like the clothes that I would wear, like for me, I love wearing bright colors, just bright colors, statement prints, big hoops, big bracelets, all of that. I love it. But sometimes people can make it known that that's too much. And I think that was quite a big challenge for me when I first started wearing my hijab, because I kind of was thinking, well, how am I going to do all of that at the same time? Because also as well, I used to wear abayas as well. That's like the long dress with the sleeves and everything. So I wore that, and that was such a huge change for me, because I never in a million years thought that I would ever go to school like that. But I thought, why not? Let's try it. Let's see how it goes. And that was hard for me, because I'm somebody that was so used to wearing, you know, colours and prints and expressing myself through clothes and those colours and prints. And then all of a sudden I kind of felt like I shouldn't do that anymore, because people would make it very clear that, I don't know, that's not Islamic, or it's not modest enough, or, you know, drawing too much attention to myself. And that kind of was a big shock to me, because even though there's absolutely nothing wrong with wearing big colors and prints and big bangles and whatever, but a lot of Muslims around me, especially, I don't know if that's because I'm black or whatever, but they made me feel like I shouldn't be doing that. So one of the reasons why I kind of stopped dressing like that was because I felt like I was trying to fit into another person's ideal of how a Muslim woman should look, and I wasn't happy with that, and I didn't want to start resenting Islam because of what other people had to say, because at the end of the day there was nothing wrong with what I was doing. That's just how I've always dressed. I try to make, well, the negative older ways, I try to make them not shape my way of thinking, because again, like, everybody has learned so many harmful things or harmful opinions that, you know, I wouldn't want to pass down to, you know, like my little sister or future children or whoever, because I think that some older ways of thinking really inhibit your creativity and how you see yourself, and, you know, how you see yourself in the world. And I think that this process of unlearning has really showed me how much I've been robbed of expressing myself, because I always felt like if I'd look a certain way or if I dressed a certain way, that really meant that I had nothing to offer, which is why a lot of the time I was very resentful towards pretty girls, because it was like, I didn't think that it was fair that, you know, they got to dress nice and wear makeup and still, you know, be treated well and respected well, when I kind of felt like, but I'm so many things, and the reason why I wasn't appreciated or treated like they were was because I didn't look like someone who deserved to be treated like that. And then now I just think maybe if I wasn't scared to care a little bit more, I wouldn't feel that kind of way towards things like fashion or makeup or beauty and just how I look in general. So now I feel like I'm going through a period where it's like I'm finding myself and finding things that I like to do and I like to wear, regardless of how that might be perceived by men or by other women or just the outside world in general. How have I learned to resist? I think first and foremost, to stop comparing myself and to other people, and stop being so concerned with what other people might think, because obviously, like, comparison's the thief of joy and whatnot, and that, you know, everybody has their own path, and recognizing that I have my own sort of, it's gonna sound so cliche, but everyone, like, is their own person and has their own purpose, and you shouldn't really let others distract you from that. And I don't know, who knows, like, maybe someone else might be stalking your Instagram and be like, I want to be like her. I mean, not that you know, the purpose of life is to stunt, but just, I feel, being able to resist outside pressures and outside opinions that I myself know deep down I don't think would be healthy for me to pursue, has really helped me become a lot more confident in who I am and who I want to be. I think because I started wearing makeup a lot later than most of my peers, I learnt from them, so I kind of just went off what they used. But saying that, like, in shops I would still be mismatched, like completely off the mark. Like, there was one time I was trying to get a sample for a foundation, and the lady was literally swatching shades that were literally the color of my under eye concealer, and I had to tell her, like, you know, I'm a dark girl, so the shades that she was giving me, I was thinking, I can't even highlight with this, so why would you think that it's acceptable for me to wear this on my whole face, you know? I thought that was a very strange experience. But like I said, luckily I had a friend with me, and I was a bit kind of shy to just tell her, like, what are you doing? And yeah, so that, luckily, because I started wearing it late, I sort of learnt from all of my friends' mistakes. But of course I still find it hard finding like good foundations that are my shade, especially in drugstore, because they'll usually have like 1 or 2 dark shades that is supposed to match every black girl, and it clearly doesn't. In fact, like, the black opal was probably, no, it was my second foundation. My very first, it was quite funny actually, my very first foundation was Fashion Fair. And that's like one auntie brand of foundation. And I remember the woman, like, I was in Boots, I was just walking around aimlessly. This was, you know, when I didn't know anything about makeup, so I was just walking. I let her try it on me, and everyone in the shop was gassing me like, oh yeah, it looks really good, it looks so good, like, it looks natural. So I went outside to have a proper look at it, and it looked all right, it looked fine. And but obviously I was still very self-conscious, because like I said, makeup was very new to me, so I was a bit like, I don't want to do this and then have everyone thinking, no, she didn't blend it out properly, she looks a mess. You know, I was really, really self-conscious, but everyone was telling me that it looked good. So I thought, you know what, I'll take it. But then when I tried to put it on myself the second time, when I actually wanted to use it, I looked grey, and I was thinking, what? This isn't the same, this is the same foundation, so why is it that when I put it on, it made me look lighter? And obviously that's not the kind of look that we are going for. And yeah, it was, I remember it came off like really heavy. Like, you know when foundation just looks like paint? Yeah. And I didn't like that because it was too much for me. So then from that point, I was even thinking, wow, maybe this makeup thing isn't actually for me. But I wanted to try because, like, are we still rolling? Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to try because, like, it's funny because growing up, like, even though I said I kind of see that myself as a quite confident girl, I was never really completely happy with how I looked. Whether that was because of my skin colour or the fact that I wore hijab when obviously not that many people around me did. So I always kind of felt not, you know, I didn't always feel like I was a beautiful person or conventionally attractive, because, like, you know, your friends would get picked and you wouldn't, and you know how everyone can, well, not everyone, because some of you are blessed, like, when you're the clapped friend, and then it's even longer if you're dark skinned as well. So I never really felt like I was a beautiful person in the eyes of society. And I think it was only when I got to like 18, 19, like I said, that was when I started wearing makeup for the first time, that I kind of started to feel beautiful, or pretty rather, because one of the reasons that I didn't actually start wearing makeup like as early as a lot of my friends did was because I already didn't feel like I was pretty or attractive, and I didn't want to fall into a trap where if I started wearing makeup, I would think that that would solve the problem. So that was one reason why I didn't wear a lot of makeup like in my early teens. And I think in hindsight, I'm happy that I made that decision, because at that age it's very easy for us as girls, especially young black girls, feeling self-conscious about the way we look and the way that society perceives us as well. And I knew how people spoke about and thought about a lot of girls who were wearing makeup early, or like who would wear makeup to school like all the time. And I didn't want to be thought of like that, because I kind of felt like the opposite of that, in the sense that when people are like, oh yeah, no, it's not about looks, it's about the impact you leave on the world, and intelligence and drive and all those things. And I always grew up like knowing that I had all of that, so I kind of felt like, well, looks don't matter, because I'm smart, I'm motivated, I'm driven, I'm doing well in school, so I don't really need to rely or have so much thought into how I looked, because I didn't feel like it mattered. But that was always a lie that I told myself, because of course I cared about how I look, because at the end of the day, when I go home, I still have to deal with who is in the mirror. When I take off my hijab, I still have to deal with my hair. So me thinking like that was just a lie that I told myself to essentially feel better. And I think it was only when I actually started to confront why I thought the way that I thought. Is this even blended? I'm not used to this fancy lighting, so I can't tell. I think the other side needs to be lighter. But so I'm happy that I was able to confront myself and really think about that, and recognizing that just because I do care about how I look, and I am quite self-conscious at times, and I wanted to rectify that through how I looked and how I dressed, it doesn't make us superficial. Like, it's natural to obviously want to look better and try new things and be creative, and that shouldn't take away from how we see ourselves and what we bring to the table. I think what unlearning respectability politics has done for me is made me a lot more understanding and empathetic towards others, and towards myself most importantly, because I always kind of felt around that point in my life that a lot of things that I thought and what I'd like to do were conflicting, and that I felt whatever side I was trying to rep I was losing it in one form or another, and I didn't want to, because I've always been proud of who I was, and I didn't really want to let older ways of thinking shape me as a person too much, because even though, like I said, I wasn't the most like confident child in front of the mirror, like I was very happy and outgoing, and I didn't want to place too much importance on how I looked. So that was a really, really life-changing thing for me to go through. And in terms of my hijab as well, I think because not many black people or black Muslims, I didn't really grow up with that many black Muslims outside of my family, of course. So I obviously felt that my experiences were not the same, because there were some things that other Muslims would go through that I myself couldn't relate to or didn't understand why, just because that's not how I grew up. And that sometimes was quite difficult to reconcile, because before I started wearing my hijab, like, I didn't look that Muslim, if that makes sense. That I just looked like any black girl with an inner head wrap, so not everyone thought that I was. So it was only until I started wearing it was like, oh, I didn't actually know you were Muslim. And then people's perceptions started to change. Obviously, the fact that I started wearing my hijab relatively early in my life, and it's funny because when I tell people that I started wearing it when I was 8, I get some funny looks like, were you and I feel like it's people are thinking things like, oh, were you forced? Why were you doing it so young? But it's funny because it was on my part. I kind of feel like it was a very rash decision, in that the average 8-year-old would not think like, I'm gonna wear hijab to school all the time. And yeah, got mixed responses from peers and from teachers as well. And obviously, seeing how hijabs are so important to Muslim women, and always felt like I didn't want to disappoint. And then I kind of felt as well like, if I wear again, back to the lies that we tell ourselves to feel better, and we all do it, and it's all right, just as long as we can eventually come to the realization that these things, they don't make us bad. They don't make us bad people or superficial people, and we shouldn't feel that way for caring about things that people make us feel bad for caring about, especially as women. So that was something that I'd had to learn and unlearn as well. And since doing that and being in the process of just the fact that we're now able to be more honest with ourselves, just makes things a lot easier. Black and being a Muslim, I always felt like I was always made to feel by others that I wasn't enough, or that my blackness somehow negated me being Muslim in one form or another, like, because people were just very ignorant. I mean, they still are, like, I still get it quite a lot, but that hurts, and that's been a key sort of sentiment or experience that I've had, and just like not really feeling Muslim enough because I was black, or being made to feel that, because at the end of the day, like, my earliest memories of like Islam and practicing was in black mosques. So it's not like I always felt like that was just something that I was made to feel by other people. And it's important for me to mention that and to go back to that, because that was never always my reality. And it just goes to show how much wider society can shape you and teach you about others and yourself. I'm happy with this. I don't want to stare at it too much before I start seeing things that do not need to be corrected. But yeah, I think they look like sisters now. Gonna put some blush and some highlight and call it a day. I remember I used to be so scared of blush because I was thinking I don't want to look like a clown doing it. But now I don't know how I was doing full faces without it, because it just brings colour and life back to our faces.
just a little bit.
Now, like, I don't always feel comfortable wearing my scarf like this in certain settings, but then I think the more I get older, I realize how important it is to not hide who I am because of how I'm scared I might be perceived. So and also I think that as well, just generally, it's can be seen as bravery and self-acceptance, even though that's not always the case. Like, it's not like every time I wear a scarf I'm like, yeah, I'm repping all Muslim women, I'm doing it for the deen. Like, I'm just wearing my scarf because that's what I do. So that's one way that I try and make statements. And also I love big jewelry, like I love big hoops, I love big bracelets, so that's always been a part of my daily aesthetic for no particular reason. I just like how they always stand out, because I think it's pretty important to stand out. Like, sometimes life can be so dull, but you know, when you have a nice big pair of hoops on, you feel like you're that girl. So yeah, I just do big jewelry because it makes me feel good, and it's always a great conversation starter as well. So yeah.
So as I mentioned a bit earlier, I started wearing my hijab when I was about 8 years old, and because like a lot of my Muslim peers were wearing it, so I kind of felt like it was only right for me to do the same. But it was interesting because I started wearing my hijab around the same time as the 7/7 incidents in London, and I remember my mum being so scared for me. And at the time, I didn't really understand why. She was really, really scared for me, you know, telling me all sorts of things like, stay safe, like, don't let anyone disrespect you or try and pull off your scarf or say anything about, you know, how Muslims are, because I'm sure we are all aware of the negative connotations of Muslims in the media. So at the time, like when I was growing up, I didn't really understand that, and I tried to not to internalize it. So, but I think in hindsight, I guess that was kind of my first introduction to all of that. And again, like the idea that Muslim women, because Muslim women who wear hijab are the most visible kind. Like, there's no, like right now, the way I'm wearing hijab, like no one is gonna second guess, is she Muslim? I don't know. Like, it's very clear. And while that can be great, a lot of the time it means that we are on the receiving end of a lot of hate. And sometimes that representation can be a bit difficult for somebody to carry on their shoulders all the time. So from then on, I kind of started to take a break from wearing my hijab in the traditional sense, like how I'm wearing it now. A lot of the time I just put it back in a bun and it's all good. And I guess some of that decision came about because of fear. Like, I didn't feel like I was ready to represent every single Muslim woman, because I'm just one person. I can't really speak on anyone else's experiences. So that was very overwhelming for me. But then eventually I kind of realized, like, I shouldn't have to bear that weight, and you know, whatever I do is on me, and I shouldn't be judged for how I decide to cover my hair and why I decide to cover my hair as well. Because it's so funny, because I was like the first person in my family to wear hijab outside. And again, I was a kid, so I didn't really know any better. But there is so much that I could say about this. And again, yeah, I kind of always used to wear my scarf in a bun because I felt like that was a safe way. I felt like obviously it looked good, because when I was in secondary school, early days as well, I couldn't imagine wearing my scarf like this because I never felt like it was for me, and I was really nervous about what people would think because, you know, I was a very loud and outgoing black girl, and I didn't really feel like those two things could work. But eventually, when I did start wearing my scarf this way to school on a more like regular basis, I think I was about 14, and the responses, they hurt, because a lot of my teachers would be coming up to me in class like, oh, you look different. Duh, like, you know, let's not tread on eggshells. They're like, oh, you look different, is everything all right? If you have any problems, like, talk to us, let us know. But at this time, I showed no sign. I wasn't having any problems. I was doing fine. I was going about my day fine. I was still a very happy girl. So I never really understood like why they thought that, because I started wearing my hijab and covering up a bit more, something had to be wrong. And this went on for a good 3-4 weeks, and it really hurt me because where was this energy before? Like, no one was concerned about my well-being like this before.